You look nice.
Thank you. I just want
In front of the fireplace.
to.
Perfect.
We're gonna probably get started. There might be a couple other people joining us in a few minutes. I'm not sure. Um, but I want to put a disclaimer out just so everybody knows. I am videotaping this for YouTube. They will not be able to see you, but they will hear you if you ask questions. So we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. So this is Introduction to Felting, and that's something I love and enjoy doing. I wanted to talk about a book. If you have any real questions, you can ask about this book. It's called Felt from the Museum of Textiles. It talks about the history, types of, and all kinds of stuff if you're into reading. The beginnings of felt, the story behind felt is that someone somewhere was taking a very long trek and walk through the mountains in the Himalayas, and his feet were hurting, so he put some wool in the bottom of his shoes or his sandals, and by the time he got where he was getting, he found that he had a piece of material. And that's supposedly the story of the beginning of felting. There's different types of felting. There is needle felting. I'm going to show you a little bit of that, and I can show you some samples. There's wet felting, and there's different types of roving. The material you're using is actually called roving. This is natural roving, and it's not necessarily so pretty. As you can see, it is not clean. It hasn't been washed. It hasn't been combed or processed. This is the roving that you would purchase probably someplace else. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But again, this has been washed, combed, dyed, and it's ready to go. Needle felting. Needle felting, the equipment you would use is needles. They come in a couple of different styles. This is a multi-needle. They will break, so you must be careful with them, and they will hurt when you stab yourself. They come in fine and coarse blades. If you look really closely, you'll see they have little tiny barbs on the ends, and they do hurt. Some needle felters will use heavy-duty leather gloves. I personally kind of like the feeling of the wool in my fingers. It gives me more control over what I'm working on. You'll need some kind of felting board. I put this one together. This is actually a piece of foam that would be used for flower arrangements, okay? But I have taped another, I think this is a poly foam. You find it in packaging materials. It's very plasticky. It's not the type of foam that will fall apart, because some foams that come in your packaging, if you start stabbing at them, it's going to pop apart. Something else that does work, though, is a house sponge. This is one of those good old-fashioned car sponges. These work pretty good. It has a lot of bounce, though. That's the only reason I don't like it. I like the little harder material to work on. So you can felt on a lot of different things can be felted too with needle felting. This is, as you can see, the what is this called? Embroidery material. This is just on a piece of cotton that's been put in. And then this is actually a landscape felted onto a piece of felt. I'm going to show it over here as well. Okay, that is all a two-dimensional type of needle felting. Needle felting is used a lot for sculptural work. So, you know, little guys that you would use for sculpting. A very simple thing you can do to get started when you've gotten some material is to do what's called a two-dimensional needle sculpting. We're using a cookie cutter, just a little tiny heart-shaped cookie cutter. And you're gonna just take a piece of the roving, and it's loose, just soft and loose. And you stuff it into the cookie cutter. And then you start needle, I hope you can, yes you can. You're gonna pounce, lightly pounce. And you're gonna keep going, and this doesn't take as long as you think it does, but it does take a few minutes. I personally like the needle felts that have, the needles that have the plastic tops. They're a little easier to hold on to. They have a grip to them. So after you've done that for a few minutes, it will come out. Oh, here they are, the samplers. So it would come out and it would kind of be like this. So you can see it kind of starts to look like a heart as the fibers are working together. And then as you continue to needle felt it, so it kind of looks like a heart. It's beginning to. But after you keep going, as you can see, it's a heart. And you can use the needle to create more structure and more shape. Always have a little extra pair of scissors, little tiny ones, so you can always clean up their edges a little bit. Just take a haircut. Just basically taking a haircut and get rid of all those flyaways, because you get a lot of flyaways because you're not going to get all of the fibers wrapped together, because what you're doing is all the fibers are laying flat, just like this. And once you hit that needle, you're going to crunch them in, and they're just going to keep intertwining until they become a solid piece of material. Think of your wool sweaters. You know, it's the same thing. All the material is getting all tightened together, and the little needle is pushing each fiber back and forth together. That's needle felting. Needle felting we can make jewelry with. We can make little balls that we use to make jewelry. If you wanted to make a ball, it's pretty simple. You take some roving, tie a knot. This is just a piece of roving. You tie it in a knot. I took my knot out. And then you're going to roll it in your hands. You work it with your hands, and then you start sculpting it into a ball. And then, of course, if you want a different color, you can add a different color on the top and layer it and do different things. And some of the balls. Okay. See the different balls? All done with felt. Needle felting is dangerous. I recommend when you start to take it easy and don't get too fast, go too fast, because once you've poked yourself once or twice, you won't want to do that again. So, balls. Wet felting, that's a lot of fun. We got started this morning. I was showing everybody how to do a little bit of a wet felt. And wet felting, I'm going to show, you're going to start whatever you're using with wet felt. This is all fresh roving. This is all just pieces of fiber. They're not even together. See how they're just laying like my fingers were on top of each other? They're not really working together. So what you're going to do is a bottle, spray bottle. It's got soap, just Dawn liquid dish soap. There are other equipment out there that's more expensive. There's special wet felting soaps and all kinds of stuff. This is just I think it's some kind of soda bottle, and I put holes in the top. And I'm going to douse it. And douse it really good. Get it really wet. And this is the magic of felting. This is just like, it's magic. So then you're going to roll it all up. Okay? And then you're going to work it. Okay? I've got another one here I already started. And this one has been rolled and worked once, rinsed once in hot water. So you've rolled it and you pushed it and you made it go all over, and then I rinsed it in hot water. Just like those wool sweaters, you wash them, you put them in hot water, what happens? So here's the second turn. This was the same size as that piece that I showed you earlier. This was the same amount of felt. It's covered in soap. It's covered in it's soap and water. I'm gonna roll it back up, and I'm gonna cover it up. And this is what I talk about rolling it. We are going to roll, dry, roll, 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 and you're gonna work it because you're trying to get those fibers mixed together. That's what happens with felting, is it mixes together. They come together, they tie in a knot. So you just keep rolling them. But the trick is, when you're gonna make a piece like this, because this is going to be for a cufflet. This is an example of a cufflet. It's gonna be the same thing. Goes on the cuff. This has been embellished. So do you see how small this is? Well, this started out this big. So it's over and over. Now I'm gonna roll it up the opposite direction, you see? And we're gonna do the same thing again, and we're gonna keep working it. Now, the number of times with wet felting that you soap it and rinse it and then soap it again is totally up to you. But you want to create a tight woven piece of material, and it will not come apart. Once it's felted together, trying to pull those fibers apart is very hard. So you can do that as many times as you need to. Some of the pieces I've done have been, you know, probably 6 or 7 times. Just warm water, soap, worked, rinsed, soap, worked, rinsed, and it's bringing those fibers together. The hot water helps it shrink down. And so we'll keep doing that, and this will keep working and getting closer and closer together. And it's going to shrink up more and more. And it'll be about this size, and then it turns into a pretty little cuff that you can wear on your bracelet. So this is a combination of wet felt and needle felt and embroidery. So with felting, if you love embroidery or beading or knitting, this is a great added to those types of crafting and art. So it's something you can really pull together and use different things to work. Weaving, I'm really getting into weaving lately. I kind of like it, it's neat, it's different. I can show you another quick trick that you might like for hair on your sculptures. If you ever, it's a combination actually of wet felting, and it's a little bit of a trick, and it works really great in if you're gonna make like a crazy gremlin with the wild hair, you know. It's how to make curlicues. You know, can you see this? I don't know if you can see it, but the curlicues.
Oh yeah.
You see the little curlicues? Can you see that?
Be good for a beard too.
Right, for a beard and your Santa. So chopsticks. You're just going to take a piece of the roving and, you know, kind of make a snake out of it. You're going to get it started. And then you wrap it around the chopstick. And again, little bottle, a little bit of water, holes in your top, sprinkle it on your chopstick, get it nice and wet, and just work it all around and around and around. Just all I'm doing is twisting it around there, and you keep doing that, and it gets pretty tight to it, and then you let it dry. This is the one I did earlier today. It's not quite dry yet, but you can put them in the oven. So, you know, you can I put mine in my toaster oven and leave them there, you know, on 200, 5-10 minutes, and they're done. And then you can just take it right off. It slides right off. Oops, come on, slide right off. I just said you slide right off. And beautiful little curly Q.
Cute.
Isn't that
Yeah.
cute? Yeah. So it's a cute little curly Q. It's perfect for, you know, in sculptures, like my little gnomes. Be really
love
cute
those gnomes.
little gnomes for, you know, Santa Claus. So, yeah.
Are your barrettes felted?
Yes, they are. Thank you for asking. This is a needle felt
Good.
barrette.
Oh wow. Nice. I'll take one of those.
Robin's putting her order in for Christmas.
Exactly.
So, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was interesting.
So I'm going to sign off, and we're going to end this, and